Hey, thank you so much for joining my YouTube channel today. Oh my goodness, we're starting a new series. I love starting these series mostly because I know God really speaks and encourages me in them, and I believe also you. And so today we're starting a new series called The People Part. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, because seriously, there's really good content. It's short, makes you think, and encourages your heart. So make sure you subscribe. That would be fantastic. So when we think about this series, I want to talk a little bit about the people part, because it's an interesting season in our lives. I know we're coming into elections and all that stuff, which, that's an interesting thing, and we should be praying, of course, for the elections. But people are important, and it seems like over the course of this year, particularly with COVID and all the things that have happened and protests, and it's kind of a very unusual year. I don't think any of us would have looked at the end of 19 and said, this is what's going to happen. It's a bizarre year, but it's very important for us to think about people and the value, the significance, the importance of people. So I was thinking about this in relation to Moses, and I like Moses a lot. I like him because we get a little bit of his life, the entirety of his life. We don't just get one little slice of this time. We get him in his birth, in his early infancy years. We get him in midlife, and then we get him all the way to the end of his life. And so when you look at Moses, and we first get introduced to some dialogue with Moses, it's when Moses is 80 years old, and he's herding sheep. It's the burning bush, Exodus chapter 3. And God shows up with Moses and says, hey, dude, I'm going to use you to deliver Israel from slavery and bondage. And Moses is chapter 4, he pushes back. I can't do this. And then he finally says this, send somebody else. Let somebody else do this. And God says to Moses, I will send to you Aaron, your brother. And it's interesting because God connects, obviously they're family, so they're already connected, but God connects them in the purpose. And when you read what God says about Aaron and the partnership, the connection that happens between the two of them, you get to see that God is really dialed into bringing Moses, person alongside, to be a support, to assist, and to help. But I would also propose this. Not only was Aaron important for Moses, but I would say that Moses was important for Aaron. Because if you look at Aaron later on, Aaron became the first high priest. And that's a really big deal. Aaron would have never walked in the fullness of God's design and purpose in his life if he hadn't connected with Moses, and Moses getting the download from Mount Sinai for the tabernacle, priesthood, and the design for Aaron. They were both complementary. They needed each other. Another place where we see Moses with people around him, and this is really interesting as well, is in Exodus 17. Because this is when the Israelites, and they've come out of slavery, and they're not real organized and cohesive. They're a bunch of slaves, a million more slaves that had been that way for generations. And they come out and they are fighting against a group of people called Amalek. And Joshua is the guy that's doing the actual military engagement. He's the one that's on the battlefield fighting and leading the troops or whatever they have. And Joshua is fighting. But it says that Moses was on the top of the hill watching the battle. And when Moses would raise his hands, the battle would go favorably for the Israelites. But when Moses put his hands down, it wouldn't go well for the Israelites. So it says that Aaron and Hur rolled up, this guy named Hur, where do you get that name? They rolled up a rock, and Moses sat on the rock, and Aaron held up one hand, Hur held up the other hand. And when they did that, Joshua would win. And they kept his arms up that way because he'd get tired, after how long. As long as he kept his arms up, Joshua would win. And by the end of the evening, Joshua defeated the Amalekites because of that partnership, that connection with Moses holding up his hands. And I say that to you because I know in this season, it's hard to have community and connection, but it's all the more important. And so when you think about your relationships, and that's what this series is all about, is relationships, that we need people and people need us. And there needs to be some connection and purpose and spiritual connection with people. So I just encourage you today and over the course of this series that you would be open to God working in your heart, on your relationships, on the connections you have with people, both for mutuality that they give as well as you give, that there's some back and forth. Because it was advantageous for Moses that Joshua had won. It was advantageous for Moses that Aaron came with him. But it was also advantageous for Joshua because of the relationship with Moses. Joshua walked into the fullness of who God made him to be because of that relationship, as well as Aaron walking into the high priesthood because of his relationship with Moses. So I just want to encourage you, think about this. And over the course of the next couple of weeks, I'll be a little bit shorter, but I thought this was really great foundation for us to think about relationships in our lives and the importance of them. So thanks for watching. Of course, I'd love to have you. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you hit the bell right there for notifications, and think about it. If you think about this series, maybe you would answer this question. So relationships in your life, do you have good friendships, or is this something you want God to develop in your life, is to have good friendships? So why don't you answer that question? You can leave it in the comments, feedback, up, down, whatever. I really appreciate it. And of course, la la la, we need a joke. This is a fantastic joke. So what do you call a wave that comes up, like on the ocean and all that stuff, but on a little tiny beach, little small beach? What do you call that kind of a wave? It is called a microwave. Next week, the joke will be way better. Thanks so much for watching.